The baby dragon's plea, "Mommy's dying. Please don't hurt us." HFY story. The human rescue team had landed on a world scarred by fire. Smoke still curled from blackened trees, and the air shimmered with heat. The mission report said a Class V apex predator laired here, a creature that had destroyed 3 survey drones and 1 unlucky exploration craft. Orders were clear: neutralize the threat. Captain Mara Keene led the squad across a ridge of obsidian stone, pulse rifles humming at the ready. Then they saw her. A dragon. Massive. Scales cracked and scorched, one wing torn to ribbons. She lay half-collapsed in a nest of melted stone, bleeding thick dark ichor. Around her, 3 small shapes huddled, baby dragons, their scales still soft and shimmering like fresh-forged steel. The soldiers froze. The mother lifted her head, teeth bared in silent warning. Her breath was labored. Smoke hissed from her nostrils. She tried to rise but faltered, collapsing with a thud that shook the ridge. And then, a sound that no one expected. "Please, don't hurt us." The voice was not human. It was thin, wavering, coming from the cluster of hatchlings. The baby dragons pressed together, eyes glowing faintly with unnatural light, as if they were forcing their thoughts into the humans' minds. "Mommy's dying," the smallest whimpered, scales flickering pale. "We can't help her. Please don't hurt us." The squad looked to Captain Keene. Their orders echoed in her mind: kill the predator before it kills colonists. But standing there, rifles aimed at shivering children, Mara saw something else. Not monsters, not threats. A mother dying to shield her young. She lowered her weapon. "Medics," she ordered quietly, "get to work." "Captain, are you?" "That's not an order for debate. Move." The soldiers hesitated. But training won. Packs snapped open. Field stabilizers unfolded. Humans, who had come to kill, now bent beside a dying dragon, sealing wounds with cauterizers, pumping oxygen-enriched gel into ruptured veins, spraying nanites to slow the bleeding. The dragon mother's eye cracked open, massive and golden, fixed on Mara. For a long moment, it seemed she might lash out, but then her head lowered again, as if she understood. The babies pressed against the humans, trembling, their thoughts fluttered with raw fear and gratitude. You're helping, Mommy. Thank you, thank you." It took hours, but by nightfall the mother dragon was stable, breathing evenly. She would not die, not today. When the team withdrew, the hatchlings followed a short distance, eyes glowing in the dusk. "We will remember," they whispered into human minds. "You did not hurt us. You saved us. When we are grown, the sky will know your kindness." And as the humans departed, Captain Mara Keene knew that somewhere in the future, when fire-winged shapes filled the heavens, humanity would not face them as enemies, but as allies, bound by a moment when mercy mattered more than fear. Do you want me to expand this into a longer, more detailed version, with battle tension, dialogue among the squad, and deeper exploration of the dragon's telepathic connection? Or keep it short and impactful like this? Got it. Here's the next continuation of the story, carrying the thread forward. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 2. The rescue ship lifted off at dawn. The volcanic valley shrank beneath them, and for a long time no one in the squad spoke. The image of the hatchlings pressed against their mother haunted every soldier's thoughts. Back aboard the Ardent Mercy, Captain Mara filed her official report. Subject designated Class V Predator. Not terminated. Status, stabilized. Recommendation, reclassification to sentient guardian species. Engagement outcome, peaceful. Her commanding officer, Admiral Thorne, was not pleased. "You directly disobeyed orders, Captain," he growled over the holocom. "Do you have any idea what you risked? Those things could have burned your squad alive." Mara met his glare without flinching. "With respect, sir. Those things begged us not to hurt them." The hatchlings spoke. They understood. "That's not a predator. That's a people." Thorne's jaw tightened. He was a hard man, forged in too many wars. "If you're wrong, and those creatures ever strike a colony, the blood will be on your hands." Mara's voice was steady. "And if I was right, and we killed a mother in front of her children, what would that make us?" For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then the Admiral cut the channel. Weeks passed. Colonists settled on the edge of the valley, always wary of the dragons beyond the ridge. But the creatures did not attack. Instead, strange things began to happen. Flocks of razor-beaked skystalkers, once deadly to survey crews, were driven back. Nests shattered by dragon fire. Streams once blocked by lava were cleared. Molten rock carved aside to open fresh water to the settlers. It was as if the dragons were protecting them. One evening, while the colonists gathered for a feast, the sky darkened. Shadows swept over the settlement. People froze, hands drifting toward weapons, until the children pointed. The baby dragons, now larger, wings strong enough to lift them, circled above, scales glittering. They landed beyond the settlement walls, lowering their heads in a gesture that needed no translation. "We remember," their voices rang in every mind. "You saved our mother. We will guard your sky." From that day forward, the settlers lived under the protection of the dragons. And in quiet moments, Captain Mara wondered if she had not only saved a family, but forged an alliance that might one day save humanity itself. Do you want me to take this even further into a full HFY epic, like showing what happens when another alien empire comes to threaten the colony, and the dragons stand beside the humans, or keep it more personal, centered around Mara and the dragons' bond? Perfect, let's take it further into an HFY epic continuation, where the alliance is tested. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 3. The colony thrived under dragon wings. Crops grew, patrols were safe, and for the first time in human history, a Class V apex predator was not just neutralized, it was an ally. But peace is never left alone. 3 years later, the sky burned again, this time not with dragon fire, but with alien warships. The Zerul Confederacy had come. The Zerul saw humans as trespassers, expanding too fast across the stars. They issued one demand: abandon the colony or be annihilated. The settlers refused. Captain Mara, now promoted to commander, stood in the command bunker as orbital bombardments lit the horizon. The colony's defenses were outmatched. Humanity had warships on the way, but they would arrive too late. The Zerul descended in drop pods, swarms of insectoid soldiers pouring across the plains. And then the earth shook. From the volcanic ridge, shadows rose, dragons, dozens of them, wings blotting out the sun. At their head, larger now, scarred but unbroken, came the mother Mara had once saved. She opened her maw, and fire poured across the battlefield like a living storm. Hatchlings, no longer small, tore through dropships with claws sharper than any blade. The ground troops scattered, their chittering voices breaking into panic. The humans, stunned, rallied, side by side with dragons. They fought. Rifles spat plasma, dragonfire melted armor, wings smashed tanks like toys. Above it all, the hatchlings' voices carried into every human mind. We remember. We protect. Together. When reinforcements from the Terran fleet finally arrived, they found the colony still standing. The Zerul war host was broken, their dead littering the ash plains. Survivors fled into orbit, unwilling to face the fire again. And there, at the edge of the landing zone, the colonists and soldiers stood with their new allies, dragons, their scales glowing in the dusk, their eyes bright with fierce loyalty. Admiral Thorne himself descended, stepping into the blackened earth where fire still smoldered. He looked at Mara, then at the dragons behind her. For a long time, he said nothing. Finally, he whispered, almost to himself, "Humanity tamed predators once before. Wolves, horses, even fire." His gaze lifted to the mother dragon, who bowed her great head. "Now," Thorne said, voice steady, "we've tamed the sky. Would you like me to keep building this into a galactic-scale saga, dragons and humans becoming a united front in interstellar wars, or slow down and explore the personal bond between Mara, the hatchlings, and the colony? All right, let's take it further into a galactic-scale saga where humanity and dragons step onto the wider stage together." The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 4. The battle with the Zerul changed everything. What began as a single rescue, one human squad saving one dying mother, spread across the stars like wildfire. The footage of dragons fighting beside humans was broadcast across the Terran systems. Colonists cheered, children whispered bedtime stories of sky guardians, and soldiers swore oaths to stand with the fire-winged allies. But the galaxy is vast, and the Zerul were not the only ones watching. Other empires trembled. Some feared humanity's growing power. Others coveted it. And many whispered that humanity had achieved the impossible. They had gained the loyalty of a Class V apex species. That alone tilted the balance of power. In the years that followed, dragons and humans grew closer. The hatchlings that once whimpered, "Please don't hurt us," now soared alongside Terran starships, their wings sheathed in protective alloys, their fire amplified with human tech. Colonists built sky perches at the edges of settlements, feeding stations and roosts where dragons could rest and speak with humans mind to mind. A new branch of the military was founded, the Ember Guard. Humans and dragons trained together, fighting as one. And Commander Mara Keen? She was now Admiral Keen, the first human officer to command a mixed fleet of steel and scale. The test came sooner than expected. The Zerul Confederacy, humiliated by their earlier defeat, returned not with one fleet, but with an armada, 1,000 ships, enough to burn worlds, enough to erase colonies from existence. Human command faltered. They knew the Terran fleet could not withstand such force. But Admiral Keen's voice carried steady across every channel. "Stand firm, we are not alone." As the Zerul armada descended, the stars themselves seemed to burn. From hidden valleys, volcanic lairs, and storm-lashed mountains, they came. Dragons, thousands of them, called by kinship, bound by oath, united by the memory of one act of mercy. The sky filled with wings. Dragons struck like meteors, tearing ships from the heavens. Human cruisers formed phalanxes, firing volleys into the gaps the dragons carved. Plasma fire mixed with living flame. The Zerul panicked, their formations shattered, their ships broke. Above it all, the mother dragon, older now, crowned in scars, fought alongside Keen's flagship, burning enemy cruisers to slag with a single breath. And through the telepathic bond that linked dragon to human, one voice carried across the battle to every soldier's mind. "Once we were afraid you would kill us. Now, we kill for you, together." The Zerul broke. Their armada fled into the void. Humanity had not just survived, it had shown the galaxy that when humans made allies, even the fiercest predators became guardians. The Senate of Worlds convened months later. Alien ambassadors demanded an answer. One asked aloud, "What are you, humans, that even Death World predators bend to your will?" Admiral Keen stood, her uniform scorched by fire, and simply said, "We are human. We do not rule with fear. We earn loyalty with mercy, and when we protect with all the fury of those who once begged only for kindness." Behind her, in the great hall of the Senate, dragons waited, massive, winged, and silent. And every world knew then, humanity had changed the balance forever. Would you like me to push Part 5 toward a climax, where humanity and dragons together confront a galaxy-spanning war, or explore the softer side, like the dragons integrating into human society, raising their young among colonists, and shaping culture? Got it. Let's raise the stakes even higher and head toward a galaxy-spanning climax. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 5. The galaxy did not remain silent. The fall of the Zerul Armada was not merely a defeat, it was a message. Humanity had shown that they could bind not just allies of flesh and blood, but forces the galaxy had always considered untamable. Predators, weapons, living storms. And so the others came. The Elvari hierarchy, cold and ancient, declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. The Vor Dominion, hive-minded and ruthless, sought to consume both man and dragon. Even neutral species now debated whether to fear humanity or to follow them. Admiral Mara Keen stood in the war room aboard the Eidolon, flagship of the Ember Guard. Around her floated holograms of burning colonies, shattered fleets, and advancing enemy lines. Her officers, human and dragon alike, watched her in silence. One hatchling, now grown into a warrior with scales like silvered steel, lowered its head beside her. "Mother of Mercy," it whispered into her mind, "they come for us all. If we fall, the galaxy will burn." Mara closed her eyes. She remembered the valley years ago, the dying dragon mother, and the words that had changed everything. "Mommy's dying. Please don't hurt us." She drew a breath. "Then we make our stand, together." The Battle of Kale's Rift became legend. Humanity's fleets, outnumbered 5 to 1, held the narrow rift that guarded the way to Terran space. Dragons surged alongside warships, their fire cutting through void as fierce as plasma cannons. But the enemy was relentless. Wave after wave crashed against them, hulls shattered, wings burned, the line buckled. At the heart of the storm, the great mother dragon, the same one humanity had once saved, rose into the void for the last time. She was old now, her body failing, but her fire had never burned brighter. She tore through Vor dreadnoughts, raked through Elvari cruisers, and when she could fly no longer, she hurled herself into the enemy flagship, detonating in a firestorm that lit the rift for 1,000 leagues. Her sacrifice broke the enemy's spine. The coalition fleets faltered, then fled. Humanity stood battered but unbroken. The galaxy had witnessed something it could not deny. Mercy had birthed an alliance stronger than fear, fiercer than conquest. In the aftermath, the dragons held a morning flight, circling the rift for days. Their voices echoed through every mind in the fleet. She gave us life. She gave us hope. She gave us you. And Admiral Keen, her eyes burning with unshed tears, answered aloud. No, you gave us all a future. From that day, humans and dragons were no longer separate. Colonies were built with roosts as large as starports. Children grew up with dragons as guardians and playmates. And in every oath of the Ember Guard, one vow remained unbroken. We remember the plea. We answer with mercy. We protect together. And in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, whispers spread. Humanity tames predators. Humanity befriends monsters. Humanity makes legends. The galaxy would never forget. High Voltage, do you want me to take this into a grand finale, Part 6, where humans plus dragons become the peacekeepers of the galaxy, or write a more emotional closing chapter focused on Mara and the grown hatchlings returning to that first volcanic valley where everything began? Alright, let's bring this into a grand finale, tying together the war, the bond, and the legacy of humans and dragons. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 6 Finale. 50 years had passed since the valley. The galaxy was no longer the same. Where once humans had been a young species scrambling for survival, now they stood at the heart of a new alliance, the Ember Accord. Humans, dragons, and dozens of other peoples bound by a single principle: mercy could forge strength greater than conquest. The Ember Guard had grown from one fleet into many, patrolling borders, settling disputes, holding the fragile peace. And still, the galaxy whispered about that first moment, the hatchling's plea, the human who listened, the dying mother who lived long enough to change destiny. Admiral Mara Keen was an old woman now. Her hair had gone white, her body lined with scars from battles fought long ago. She stood once more on the volcanic ridge where it had all begun. Beside her, vast wings folded in the twilight, stood the silver-scaled dragon who had once been the smallest hatchling. His eyes glowed with memory. Do you remember, Mara? The dragon's voice rumbled in her thoughts. When we were weak, and you held your fire? Mara smiled faintly, her voice rasping with age. I remember you trembling, begging. I remember thinking, no soldier should aim a weapon at children. The dragon lowered his head, the ground trembling as he exhaled a plume of smoke. Because you listened. We are more than survivors. We are protectors. The stars are safer because one human chose mercy. Mara's gaze lifted to the sky, where patrols of human starships flew in formation alongside great shapes with wings of fire. Not mercy, she whispered, just humanity. The dragon was silent for a long moment. Then he asked softly, and when you are gone, who will remember? She reached out, placing her frail hand on the warm scales of his muzzle. You will. That night, as the sun set crimson over the valley, Mara Keen breathed her last. The dragon who had once been a hatchling roared into the heavens, a cry that shook mountains and reached every mind for 100 miles. Dragons gathered from across the skies, wheeling in a morning flight that blazed like fire across the stars. And in every human settlement, from the smallest outpost to the heart of Terra itself, people paused. They knew what had happened. The woman who had first answered the plea was gone. But her legacy lived. In the Ember Guard. In the Accord. In every dragon wing that shadowed a colony. In every child who grew up unafraid of monsters. And when strangers from beyond the galaxy came centuries later, testing the Accord, they were met not with fear, but with the same answer that had shaped it all. We remember the plea. We answer with mercy. We protect together. The baby dragon's whisper had become the galaxy's vow. And humanity? Humanity had not just tamed predators. Humanity had taught them to dream. Sparkles that closes the saga. Would you like me to now polish all 6 parts into one seamless, novel-style story, flowing without part 1, 2, breaks? Or would you prefer to keep it episodic, like a serialized HFY legend? Understood. Let's go beyond the finale and show what happens when the legend itself becomes the foundation for the future. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Epilogue, The Legacy of Mercy. Centuries later, children gathered in the Hall of Firelight on New Terra. The hall's roof was shaped like a dragon's wing, its walls etched with star maps and the names of fallen heroes. At the center stood the oldest living dragon, scales dimmed with age, wings scarred by wars long past. His voice was deep as mountains, yet gentle as a lullaby. Long ago, he began, his words echoing into every child's mind. We were small, we were afraid, our mother was dying, and we thought humans would kill us as all others had tried. Instead, they saved her. Dozens of small hands shot up. A young human boy asked, "Was it true, Elder, that the humans didn't shoot, even when you were monsters to them?" The old dragon's eyes gleamed. "Yes, and because they did not shoot, you sit here today under wings and stars both. We did not become enemies, we became family." Beside him, a human elder, descendant of Admiral Mara Keen, rose from her chair. She placed a hand on the dragon's talon, her voice trembling with pride. They called it the Baby Dragon's Plea, a moment so small, so fragile, yet it changed the course of civilizations. One act of mercy, one refusal to kill. The dragon's tail curled around the children like a protective wall. Remember this, little ones. Someday you may be the soldier with the rifle, the colonist with the fear, the child with the voice. When that day comes, remember what built our world, remember the plea, remember the answer. And as the children repeated the vow, half with human voices, half with draconic mind speech, the great hall shook with a harmony that carried out into the night sky. A vow older than nations. A vow stronger than fire. We remember the plea. We answer with mercy. We protect together. High voltage. Now the story has shifted into legend within the universe, showing how the plea became a cultural cornerstone. Do you want me to expand this epilogue into a full future era story, where the Accord faces new outsiders who never heard the legend, or should I consolidate all parts, 1 to 6 plus epilogue, into a single seamless saga for you to have as one long narrative? Alright, let's push the story into a future era, where the legend of the Baby Dragon's Plea is tested by those who never knew it. The Baby Dragon's Plea, Part 7, The Outsiders. 500 years after Admiral Mara Keen's passing, the Ember Accord stretched across 1,000 worlds. Humanity and dragons lived side by side. Their fleets patrolled the stars. Their children grew up learning both flame and song. To most of the galaxy, the Accord was not just an alliance, it was inevitability. A people who could make kin of predators could not be conquered. But not all threats were born of this galaxy. From beyond the black edge of the Orion Arm, they came, the Saith Dominion, wanderers from another galaxy. They knew nothing of the Accord, nothing of the plea, nothing of the vow. To them, the dragons were beasts to be broken, and humans were just another expansionist race. They descended in fleets of obsidian, wielding weapons unlike anything the Accord had faced, gravity lances that bent space, cannons that cracked moons. Whole colonies fell in days, Ember Guard patrols were shattered, even dragonfire seemed to wither against the Saith's shimmering shields. In the Accord's council chamber, panic reigned, ambassadors called for retreat, generals demanded counteroffensives. But one young dragon, heir to the silver-scaled hatchling who once made the plea, rose above the shouting, his wings spread wide, his voice booming through every mind present. Do you not see? They do not know us. They never heard the story. We cannot expect them to fear our fire, or to honor our oath. We must show them, as Admiral Keen once showed us, what mercy truly means. The chamber fell silent. Even hardened admirals paused, for they knew the truth. The Accord had been built on mercy. If they abandoned it now, they would be no better than those who once saw dragons as monsters. And so, when the Saith Armada reached the Accord's core, They found not only fleets arrayed against them, but a great gathering. Dragons soared in formation, their wings lit with plasma light. Human starships held position, weapons armed but not firing. At the center of it all, a single shuttle drifted forward. Within it sat a human child and a dragon hatchling, holding hands. The transmission went out across every Saith channel, translated into their harsh tongue. Long ago, we begged for mercy, and were given it. We ask you now, do not hurt us. We will not hurt you. Stand with us instead of against us. For the first time, the Saith faltered. Their war leaders, bred for conquest, did not understand, but their soldiers, their workers, their children, they listened. A single moment of hesitation cracked the Dominion's iron resolve. Civil war erupted within their ranks. Some Saith ships lowered weapons, others broke formation. And into that fracture, the Accord extended its hand. The war ended not in annihilation, but in the same way it had begun so long ago, with a plea, an answer, and a vow renewed. Thus the legend grew even greater. The plea had once saved a mother and her hatchlings, then it had saved a galaxy, and now, it had saved two. And in every future generation, human and dragon alike taught their young the same truth. Mercy is humanity's greatest weapon. High Voltage, do you want me to take this even further into Part 8, where humanity plus dragons plus Saith become a triune civilization? Or should I weave everything, 1 to 7, into one continuous epic saga with no breaks, like a novel? Perfect, let's carry it forward. This part will deepen both politics and personal bonds. Part 4, Whispers of the Human. Word traveled fast. Daniel hadn't been back in the guest quarters for more than an hour before whispers seeped through the ship's corridors. He didn't know the language, but he recognized the cadence, awe mixed with disbelief. The human had stood against a predator beast and survived. The Queen's courtiers repeated it in hushed tones. The Blood Guard, though visibly irritated, no longer called him nothing. And Lyra? She glowed. Wherever she went, she clutched his hand proudly, as though saying to every alien, I see. He stayed. He always stays. Daniel felt awkward under the attention, but he couldn't deny the shift. He wasn't invisible anymore. 2 days later, the Queen summoned him privately. The throne room was empty this time, just Daniel, the Queen, and the ever-present Blood Guard. Her voice was softer now, stripped of the grand echo. Do you understand what you've done? She asked. Daniel shrugged. Didn't feel like much. I just didn't run. The Queen's lips curved faintly. Precisely. That is why it matters. Many warriors seek glory. Few will stand when they know glory is impossible. The Blood Guard shifted, clearly disapproving. You elevate him too quickly. He is still fragile. Fragile? The Queen turned her gaze on him. Perhaps, but fragility is not weakness. A reed bends in the storm where stone shatters. She turned back to Daniel. Our empire is vast, but our enemies grow bolder. They think us predictable. They think they know what fear shapes us. A human who endures without hope, such a concept unsettles them. Already, rival courts whisper. They wonder, what are these humans, if even one can stand so? Daniel's stomach sank. Wait, you're saying, all of humanity just got dragged into this? The Queen inclined her head. Yes. That night, Daniel found himself alone with the Blood Guard for the first time. The armored warrior leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching him like a hawk. You should know, the guard said at last. I despised you. Daniel snorted. That much was obvious. But, the guard's eyes narrowed. Reluctant, you stood where many of my own would falter. For that, I owe you a measure of respect. Do not mistake it for friendship, but when blades rise against you, I will not be the one to strike first. Coming from him, it was almost a compliment. Later, when Daniel tucked Lyra into her bed, she whispered, You didn't run. He smiled tiredly. Didn't really have a choice, kid. She shook her head, eyes half closed. No, you stayed, like before, like always. And though he didn't know it yet, those simple words, spoken by a child, would be carried far beyond that ship. A saying, repeated, translated, and whispered in alien tongues. The human stays. And the galaxy was beginning to take notice. Would you like the next part to show the first alien envoys from rival empires trying to test/tempt Daniel? Or to go deeper into Daniel's bond with Lyra, showing her people's culture through her eyes? Great, let's move into the rival empires testing Daniel while deepening his bond with Lyra. Part 5, The First Envoys. It began with gifts. Daniel awoke one morning to find his quarters filled with objects that weren't there the night before. A crystalline sphere that pulsed faintly with inner light, a necklace that shimmered like liquid metal, a carved idol of some beast with too many eyes. He blinked, rubbing his face. Lyra, did you sneak in here last night? The girl shook her head rapidly, ears twitching. Not me. When the queen's attendants arrived, their expressions soured at the sight. They swept the gifts into sealed containers, muttering angrily. Envoys, one finally explained. Rival courts, they seek to buy your favor. Daniel was baffled. By my favor? I'm just some guy from Earth. But the more he asked, the clearer it became. His survival in the trial had spread far, too far. Alien rulers, warlords, and merchants had heard of the human who endured. Some thought him a curiosity worth claiming. Others whispered that if they could sway him, perhaps they could sway the queen herself. And so the envoys came. The first was velvet-tongued and smiling, scales catching the light like polished jade. He bowed low to Daniel, ignoring the queen's guard entirely. Human Daniel, he purred, your kind is young, alone, but my people, we welcome those who endure. Serve with us, and your species will never want for protection. Daniel blinked. Serve with you? I'm not for sale. The envoy's smile thinned. All beings are human. The question is only the price. The blood guard stepped forward, hand on his blade, and the envoy retreated with a hiss. But his parting words lingered. Remember, human, empires rise and fall. Choose wisely who you stand beside. The second envoy didn't bother with charm. She arrived flanked by soldiers in gleaming armor, her voice sharp as razors. You are dangerous, she told Daniel flatly. Not for your strength, but for what you represent. A story, a seed of belief. Seeds grow into forests that topple empires. If you wish to live, stay silent, stay small. Daniel, exhausted from weeks of being judged, simply shrugged. Yeah, that's not really my style. Her eyes narrowed. Then you are a fool. That night, Daniel sat with Lyra on the observation deck, the stars a tapestry around them. She leaned against him, small and quiet, then finally spoke. They want to take you away, she said, the ones who bring gifts, the ones who speak with sharp words. Yeah, Daniel admitted, seems that way. Her grip on his hand tightened. Don't go. He looked down at her, the girl who once trembled in the woods, now staring at him with quiet certainty. Not planning to, he said softly. She smiled, sleepy but sure. Good, because when you stay, I'm not afraid. And Daniel realized something unsettling but true. It wasn't just her who felt that way. The galaxy itself was beginning to believe it too. Would you like me to take the next part into a major political summit where Daniel is dragged in front of multiple alien powers, or into a sudden crisis, like an attack, that forces him to prove himself again? This time not just to the Queen's people but to everyone watching?